I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Today is the start of Good Energy Week here at KGW. Earth Day is this Saturday, so we thought, you know what the heck? The Earth is sort of important to a lot of us. Let's celebrate it every day this week. So tonight, we'll begin with a look at how the move to electric vehicles is going in Oregon. That is our big story tonight. You know, when it comes to driving an electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid, I know that many of you are big fans. And the latest numbers from the state of Oregon show that more than 60,000 electric or plug-in hybrids are roaming around in Oregon. Now, I have to say, I think the number actually is much higher since that number was last updated in November of 2022. Apparently, no one at the Oregon Department of Energy cares enough to get a fresh number. I mean, I emailed them today, no reply. Anyway, it's a lot of vehicles, but there are also some headwinds. The first thing is the cost. This graph from the Oregon Department of Energy shows the issue for one car as an example, the 2021 Hyundai Kona Ice versus the Hyundai Kona EV. They're basically the same car. One's electric, one is not. On the right, the gas-powered car costs roughly $20,500. On the left, the electric vehicle starts around $37,300. So if we use those numbers, the electric car is $17,000 more. But the federal government does offer up to $7,500 in tax credits, although the list of which vehicles qualify is changing tomorrow. And the state of Oregon offered $2,500 to $7,500 in rebates for buying electric, but that program ran out of money last month. So it's on hold now and don't count on it. There's also the added cost of having to buy a charger for your home, although utilities offer money to help with that too. In the Portland area, that means Pacific Power and PGE, which offer about $500 and up to $1,000 for those who are lower income. So that helps a little bit, although you still have to hire your own electrician, etc. At least those numbers show it is still more expensive to buy electric. But let's not lose sight of the big picture here. There is a fundamental change underway with a purpose to reduce greenhouse gases and save our planet. And yes, I do hear those of you who say China and India are big problems and nothing that we do here matters. I disagree. I think it all matters, the big stuff and the little stuff. It's an amazing time of transformation. Someone with a front row seat to all of this is Jeff Allen. He's executive director of a nonprofit called Fourth. Its goal is to get rid of barriers for electric mobility, which I know is a little bit nebulous, but basically it means he's a big fan of electric cars.
This is an incredibly complicated transition that we're making, and it's easy to get bogged down in all the things that could go wrong and all the things we're trying to do. But fundamentally, it's an incredibly exciting and optimistic story. You know, driving an electric car today in the Pacific Northwest is like driving a car that gets 120 miles per gallon or more. And it's the only car you can buy that gets cleaner every year you drive it because the grid is getting cleaner.
All right, so you can tell he's a fan. Last week, the Biden administration announced new rules through the EPA, which could have the effect of turbocharging electric car sales. It would cut the allowable tailpipe emissions in half. That could mean that in just 9 years, 2 out of every 3 new vehicles sold would be electric. In the meantime, different rules that take effect tomorrow will impact which electrics get a federal tax credit. Last summer, I visited the Herzog-Meyer Volkswagen dealership in Beaverton. They were very nice. I was very impressed by their ID4 electric car.
Well, this is kind of nice. It tells me how much battery I got there, how far it says I can go 734 miles.
No. We're at 179 right now.
Okay.
This is the odometer.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so I'm still learning my way around all the high-tech dashboards that cars have these days. Last summer, the biggest challenge was getting the vehicles into the showrooms. The supply chain problems that we had back then created a waiting list of a few months. When we shot this video, the ID4, which sells for between $35,000 and $55,000, did qualify for the federal tax credit. But as of tomorrow, it's going to be off the list. The New York Times reports that's happening because Volkswagen is still assessing its supply chain, which I think means it needs to certify that it's assembled in North America and that the key battery parts come from North America. The chief executive for Volkswagen Group of America, by the way, has said he does expect the vehicle will qualify. The Times reports the Volkswagen was the fourth most popular EV in America, by the way, over the first quarter of 2023. The top three, Tesla, GM, and Ford. So here's the big change that's happening tomorrow. Remember when Congress passed the Inflation Reduction Act? It happened last August. The bill did a whole lot of things. The one, though, that we care about and we focus on is the one that promoted clean energy. When it comes to electric vehicles, the government is approving tax credits for vehicles from companies that basically make their batteries and cars in America. That was part of that act. According to a federal list put out by the government, 7 auto companies and 14 vehicles will qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. They include Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y, which are the best-selling electric vehicles in America. The least expensive version of the Model 3, by the way, is only getting half the tax credit because, according to the New York Times, the battery is made in China. There are also income restrictions. You cannot make more than $300,000 as a married couple. The vehicle has to be assembled in North America. Critical parts of the battery have to come from North America or trade partners. And the vehicle must cost 80 grand as the top or less if it's an SUV or van or pickup, 55 grand or less for other vehicles. So to sum all that up, the auto industry is finally serious about really moving toward electric. There are some changes in the tax incentives designed to bring down the price of electrics. The federal government appears to be behind the change in a big way, and advocates like Jeff Allen say you should get on board if you can.
So it's one of the easiest, quickest, least painful things you can do to reduce your carbon footprint. And actually, electric cars are better cars, right? They're faster, they're fun. You don't have to worry about stopping to get gas. So it really is a success story. And we are accelerating that transition at an incredible pace.
So what are your thoughts about all this? Should the government be even more aggressive in its tax incentives or credits? Or is this just a bunch of green economy hype? Maybe something in between? I don't know. What do you think? Send me an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or you could call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090. I look forward to hearing from you. And while we're on the topic of electric cars, and because it's Good Energy Week, we wanted to address a question that we get from a lot of you. Are electric vehicles actually worse for the environment than gas vehicles because of the way that their batteries are made and how they're charged? Here's Brandon Lewis with our Verify team.
More electric cars are for sale now than ever before, according to the U.S. Energy Department. But that's prompting several Verify viewers, like Joyce, to ask if that's a good thing. So, Joyce, let's verify. Are electric cars worse for the environment than gas-powered cars? Our sources are the EPA and the U.S. Department of Energy. There's obviously a lot of variety between vehicles. So to help standardize things a bit, we're going to compare a Tesla Model 3, which was 2019's best-selling electric vehicle in the U.S., with 2019's best-selling gas-powered vehicle, the Ford F-150, which gets about 27 miles per gallon. The Oak Ridge National Laboratory compared the two and found a gas-powered vehicle like the F-150 emits 410 grams of carbon dioxide per mile. Meanwhile, the Model 3 emits 0 grams. But if you consider the emissions in generating the electricity to charge the car, it's 110 grams of CO2 per mile. The other factor to consider is the energy needed to produce the vehicles, especially an electric car battery. The EPA says it's true more greenhouse gases are emitted to produce an electric car than a gas car. However, when you add that to the reduced emissions per mile over a vehicle's lifetime, the EV emits nearly 50% less. So it's false that electric cars are worse for the environment than gas-powered cars. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
And now you know. Hey, and when you think of sustainability, do any Portland neighborhoods pop up on top of your head? Maybe your neighborhood? It's a safe bet that the Lloyd District is probably not one of them. But advocates have been working quietly behind the scenes to boost the neighborhood's sustainability street cred, and they've passed a big milestone. Environmental reporter Cale Williams has the story.
On the surface, the Lloyd District might not look like one of the most environmentally friendly neighborhoods on the West Coast, but don't tell that to Kristen Leiber.
I think people don't have a sense of what Lloyd is working on because a lot of sustainability work is invisible.
Leiber is executive director of a nonprofit called Lloyd Eco District, And within the last few months, the Lloyd neighborhood became one of just a handful of neighborhoods in the entire world to earn the coveted Eco District certification. Lieber said the designation is sort of like the LEED certification you see on buildings, but for the whole neighborhood.
It is how neighborhoods can develop sustainability strategies in a wide definition of the word, and we also include equity and resiliency.
The threats facing the Lloyd District aren't that different from what we're all facing. A resiliency assessment commissioned by the group found that heat waves, wildfire smoke, and unpredictable precipitation were the most likely threats the neighborhood would face as the climate continues to change.
So we know we're going to continue to have smoke days. We know we're going to continue to have heat days. So we are thinking about, from a building standpoint, what upgrades do buildings need to do to respond to this increasing frequency of heat waves?
That's Joshua Baker, outreach coordinator with the nonprofit. He says one of the crucial aspects they focus on is resiliency, the ability to cope with and adapt to whatever the future climate might throw at us. And another one of those invisible sustainability efforts? It's the connections neighbors forge with each other.
We believe that the more bonds and the more connections that residents have, the more that they are able to respond to crisis.
The organization has sponsored mural painting events and put on workshops that focus on first aid, mental health, and how to respond to heat waves. But not all of the changes in the neighborhood are invisible. There's the bike lane on Multnomah Avenue, separated from the road by planters filled with native foliage, and the periodic cleanup parties at Peace Memorial Park, just up from the East Bank Esplanade. And these huge red tanks sitting just outside an office building, which Baker affectionately refers to as Norm.
Which is the natural organic recycling machine, which recycles most of the wastewater. I think actually all of the wastewater on site, and then that is reused for irrigation, toilets, and things like that, and is amongst one of the more sustainable developments in the country.
Well, there's a lot of talk about how to respond to climate change at the state and national levels. Lieber said there's something about the size and scale of a neighborhood that just makes the goals feel more attainable.
It involves a lot of collaboration, which is easier to do in a few blocks rather than citywide, but it's more impactful than, say, a single property owner might have on one building.
Now, the nonprofit has a number of events going on this week leading up to Earth Day, and you can find all the details up right now on KGW.com. Cale Williams, KGW News.
Thanks, Cale. Still to come on the story. When we talk about the environment and our impact on it, do you ever stop to think about how much trash you accumulate and throw out every day? It's probably more than you think, but there are some people out there living what's called a zero waste lifestyle. We'll show you how it's done and maybe give you an idea or two when it comes to your own habits. That's when the story returns. Let's think about how much trash you and I produce every day. For most Americans, it adds up to more than 4 pounds per person per day. That's well over 1,400 pounds a year, which is a lot. Leah Pizzetti from our sister station in Seattle shows us how a few adjustments could make a big difference and how one family is setting that example.
Wesley, what would you like for your snack? The normal?
Yep, normal.
Just want to hold on to them, or do you want them in a bowl?
On a typical weekday morning,
That's in a bowl in 5-year-old language.
the Wall family juggles what many families juggle. High energy kids and some occasional chaos. All expected with a 3 and a 5-year-old. All of this according to Stephanie.
I feel like I'm living a pretty normal life.
But there is one major difference that sets her family apart.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
With a lot less trash.
This family lives zero waste.
I've been living a zero waste lifestyle for 10 years. So for me, it's just habit.
Doing everything they can to make sure nothing ends up in a landfill. Glass and reusable jars fill their kitchen. Subtle, but significant.
Okay, babies.
And a spill from Clara.
That's okay. That happens with raspberries.
Isn't cleaned up with a paper towel, but something reusable.
So let me get you a little wet rag. There you go. Use your face too.
I saw Sky helicopter.
Oh, you saw Sky's helicopter?
Then look at this through the eyes of a 5-year-old.
Yes.
It's not trash.
Every recycled material on here
It's a robot.
can do anything you want.
And Stephanie wears the same lens, even prepping a snack for school.
Now, Wesley, you said you don't want crust?
And that part off, okay?
Okay.
Now Stephanie uses the unwanted crust to make croutons, a zero waste snack. And see this small bucket in 1 week. This gets filled once, maybe twice.
So this is our family's kitchen garbage.
Stephanie says when she first started more than 10 years ago, living zero waste wasn't that common, and it was hard.
I remember making my own toothpaste. It was awful.
But now that it's more common, it's easier to find zero waste items, like sustainable paper products.
We don't use toilet paper. I'm just kidding. We do. We buy toilet paper from a company that has different. You can have recycled paper, you can have bamboo.
Home decor, thrift stores, and estate sales, where Stephanie says the quality actually tends to be higher.
I joke with my friends that if you can find something that's not secondhand, I'll give you $1.
Item by item, lowering what ends up in a landfill.
The average person makes, I think, 4.5 pounds of trash, I want to say a day, or is it a week?
The city of Seattle has their own statistics on this.
It's about 2.2 pounds per day per person.
But the EPA's most recent national average is 4.9 pounds per person per day of trash that ends up in a landfill.
There's still some, very tangible things we can do.
And get this, Jeff Fowler with Seattle Public Utilities says if everyone properly composted their food waste, we'd decrease landfill garbage by 20%. And if we did the same for recyclables, we'd decrease another 21%. That's cutting what we put in a landfill by nearly half simply by recycling and composting correctly. Next, he wants people to think like the Wall family.
Okay.
And don't even buy the things that have a short lifespan.
It's a food grade silicone bag.
Be consciously thinking about when we're purchasing materials, what is the end life of this material? How much waste is going to be created?
Something that for the Walls is totally normal.
I think that you can live a beautiful, normal life and still have these practices and not be the stereotype of, people have used the word tree hugger or a, crazy environmentalist. When there's just less stuff to worry about, you have more room to go spend time with friends, to have experiences, to go and, go put your feet in the grass, go play outside on the playground.
Avoiding the material things, keeping the focus on what's important.
It really has made me grateful.
Grateful for a normal life with a lot less trash.
Huh, no paper towels at all? Still to come on the story. Could be the beginnings of an incredible comeback, or is it just a coincidence? We're talking about wolverines, of course. They've been numerous nearby sightings of the elusive creature lately, something not seen in these parts for decades. What you need to know about the largest member of the weasel family when the story returns.
Straight ahead at 6:30, stunning allegations behind the sudden shutdown of a brand new behavioral health center in Portland. Plus, REI's downtown store set to close its doors while the company says it's moving out of the Pearl. And if there's a beaver in your family, get ready for a jump in tuition. How much more it'll cost to attend OSU starting this fall. That is next at 6:30. Hope to see you then.
Do you have a Roku or Amazon Fire? If you do, you can watch today's show plus previous shows and segments anytime on our streaming service. Go to your Roku or Fire homepage and add KGW Plus to your home screen. Now, let's talk about some promising news when it comes to the environment and the wildlife around us. You're looking at pictures and video of a wolverine that have been 5 sightings of the creature in the past month. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. It was first noticed by fishermen along the Columbia River not far from Portland back on March 20th. Then there were confirmed reports from Damascus, Oregon City, and Colton before the latest sighting 11 days ago along Highway 20 east of Santiam Pass. It's the first time the species has been seen outside the Wallowa Mountains in 30 years. And based on sightings, wildlife experts say it's possible it is the same animal in each case, since they can travel, get this, up to 30 miles a day.
These animals can travel a great distance, especially when they're dispersing, which is moving from their natal area to potentially set up a new territory and find a mate elsewhere.
Wolverines are the largest member of the weasel family and resemble a small bear. They're powerfully built and have a reputation for being particularly ferocious. ODFW says that reputation is largely due to behavior seen when they're trapped in a cage where wolverines can, quote, exhibit defensive aggression unmatched by most other species. Experts say the animal can even kill members of the deer family. Wolverines are mostly found in Alaska and Canada. They need a high elevation habitat requiring alpine areas with dense snowpack. ODFW says wolverines are quite rare in Oregon, and these sightings are significant when it comes to conservation. The last documented wolverine in the Central Cascades was killed by a trapper near Broken Top Mountain in 1969. That's more than 50 years ago. The species is listed as threatened here. That means you can't hunt them or trap them, even if you do manage to see one. But you may be at home wondering, well, if there's at least one roaming, wouldn't there be others?
The chances are really very low. Our state worked with a number of other partners from 2020 to 2022 for a major survey effort throughout the Cascade Mountains and eastern Oregon, and we only detected wolverines at one location in the Wallowa Mountains.
So there you go. And much like other wildlife with sharp teeth and claws, your best bet is to steer clear if you happen to find a wolverine, and enjoy the beauty from afar.
There's not documented evidence of wolverines attacking people. In the right situation, any animal can be dangerous, and so we recommend what we always recommend, which is people give animals their space, observe respectfully.
In the meantime, don't go anywhere, not just yet. It's not all good news when it comes to conservation. There's a new threat affecting the southern resident orcas along the Washington coast. Experts say there's not an easy fix to it. We'll explain when the story returns. Last week, we told you about this orca named Tokatai and how she will likely be taken from the Miami Aquarium, where she's lived for a half-century, and will once again swim in the waters of the Pacific, where she was captured back in the 1970s. She may never be able to fully swim free again if she can't learn how to hunt, but her family members and other southern resident orcas are facing a different kind of threat to survival that endangers the future of the species. And after seeing results from a recent study, researchers say it may not be possible to reverse the problem. Jessica Janner Castro explains.
Researchers say it is crucial to determine why the local endangered killer whale population continues to decline.
Well, some of them aren't reaching breeding age, and some of them are just dying earlier in life.
Marty Cardos with Northwest Fisheries Science Center says they decided to look at the orca's genetics and found the group is breeding with each other.
That individuals who are more highly inbred die earlier. So that just means that, for example, females are, not living, the more highly inbred females aren't living very long. And the same thing is occurring with males.
The new study found the southern resident killer whales had the highest levels of inbreeding out of the samples collected from orcas in the North Pacific. Cardos says there is no easy fix.
The challenge is that this is something that would be extremely difficult to address directly. They interact with other killer whale populations really frequently, but they just don't breed with individuals from other populations, which would be a solution to the problem. For example, if we captured a killer whale from Alaska and tried to introduce it into the southern resident population, it would probably just turn around and go home.
He says the best shot is improving the orca's environment.
Now, there's a lot of environmental protection, a lot of efforts to improve the environment for southern resident killer whales, and I still think that's their best shot at recovery.
Interesting and a little sad at the same time. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks for watching, and remember, the story, our collective story, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.